Alright, good morning, guys, and happy Thursday. I guess it's afternoon for you. So today we're going to be working with multiplication and counting chips. So I just want to start off with solving this equation, 12 times 3 equals, or you could say evaluating the expression. So 12 times 3 is 36, 12, 24, 36. But what does that even mean? That can be confusing for some people, so let's use counting chips to express multiplication. So what does 12 times 3 even mean? Well, if I want 12 times 3, I can think of that as 3 groups of 12. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 2, 3, 4. So this, you could think of this as 12 times 3. So 12, here's 12, and then I did 12 3 times, or 12 times 3. So this is just another way of representing multiplication with our counting chips. So 4 times 8. Well, 4 times 8 we know is 32. But again, what does 4 times 8 even mean? Well, if I show 4 8 times, so 4 8 times, this is 4, here's 4, but I did it times 8. So that's another way of thinking about multiplication with counting chips. I know whenever I'm doing math in my head, when I think 4 times 8, I have to think about, 4 8 times. Like, I have to visualize that in my head. It really helps me, especially with the sort of obscure multiplication problems, ones that you don't think about a lot. But there are some multiplication rules that I think are really better viewed with counting chips. So, like -2 times 4. Well, our rule is that a negative times a positive is a negative. But why? I mean, that seems kind of arbitrary. Why is a negative times a positive equal to a negative? Well, if I take 4 groups of -2, so here's negative chips. So these are all negative chips, or -1s. Well, if -2 times 4, so 4 groups of -2, if I'm just giving more groups of -2, well then of course I'm going to end up with a negative number, because I haven't introduced any positives. I'm just showing a bunch of different groups of -2. I keep adding -2 more and more times. So that's why I wanted to use counting chips at the start of today, to show this rule specifically. And like we saw yesterday when we did, 6 minus -5, when we had the minus negative, ended up being just like addition. So those negatives canceled out, and so will these. So two negatives will cancel out to be a positive. So negative 9 times negative 2 is a positive 18. And these are the two multiplication rules that I really want you guys to think about as we move ahead in our class. So let's evaluate the following expressions. And we've got to think about, do I have two negatives to cancel out? Or do I just have one negative? It's going to give me a negative answer. Or do I not have to worry about negatives at all? That's the wrong. I wanted the highlighter. So here I've got one negative, and we know that a negative times a positive is a negative, because if I have, think of this as like 6 groups of negative 4. 1, there's one group, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we can see that I'm going to have a negative. I'm going to have a negative answer because I've just got negative chips. So you do not need to show this. You don't need to show that work on your homework. I just wanted to show that to, again, get you guys thinking about our rule. A negative times a positive is going to get me a negative. And then 6 times 4 is just 24. And same thing here, we've got 4 times 2. So I got to check for negatives. No negatives. Feeling good about that. 4 times 2, I know is 8. And I'll do one more, and then I will leave you guys to do some practice problems here. So number 3, I've got a single negative, so just one negative number. So I know my final answer is going to be negative, because a negative times a positive is a negative, and 4 times 3 is 12. So I'm going to leave you guys there, and I will see you in class. We'll talk about this more tomorrow. All right, have a great